Hello, I'm Paula Bolton, co-founder of Lesbian Labour. Welcome to our Proud Lesbian series. During Pride Month, I'll be interviewing a wide range of lesbians to gather lesbian perspectives and to hear about lesbian lives in 2022. And my 19th interviewee comes to us from Bradford today, where she's visiting her mum. And this is Deb, who's lived for many years, since 1979, in Edinburgh. Deb is an artist and photographer. So welcome, Deb. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks. Cheers.
I'm going to do some product placement already because these two beautiful postcards in the background are examples of Deb's work. And it was that reminded me that she might have a story to share with us. So let's hear. Deb, could you start by talking to us about your lesbian life? When did that start and how did you come out and, you know, that sort of thing?
Well, officially it started in 1979, about a month after I'd gone to Edinburgh. But in reality, I think I was actually born that way. I'm one of those that think they were born that way, for sure. Mm. I mean, I'd never had any examples of lesbians in my life at all until I got to secondary school, and there were two girls there who were in a lesbian relationship. And although I didn't recognise that for myself, I defended them when it was an all-girls school, just an ordinary secondary school. When others of the girls kind of sort of made derogatory comments, I'd always defend them, and I thought it made me think about myself, and I thought, I wonder maybe if I'm bisexual or something like that, you know, because the word lesbian was an absolute dirty word back then. And the word queer was absolutely abhorrent, and I still don't like it. I do not identify as queer. I'm a dyke, basically. And lesbian, even the word lesbian sometimes makes me feel slightly uncomfortable, just because of, you know, the way it was talked about when I was, you know, younger. It wasn't a nice thing to be, really.
Did they have, you know, like round here, it was leather. Yeah, you were leather then. I mean, did they have lots of versions of it, or was it lesbian? You know.
Yeah, I don't really remember that so much as a kid. The first time I got recognised as being gay, lesbian, or whatever was in St Albans. Actually, I was with a girlfriend, and we'd come out of the house, and a gang of kids had twigged that we were a couple, and they went round to the shops a different way. And so by the time I got round to the shops, there was this whole gang of young kids and some teenagers throwing stones at us and shouting names across the road. And I just stood there outside the shop, and I thought, do you know, if I don't do something about this, our life here is going to be miserable. So I thought, right. So I just looked at them and I picked one out, as in I thought, he looks half okay, that lad. So I just went up to him across the road, and they're like, ooh, it's coming here. Ooh. So I just went and spoke to him. I ignored the rest, and I just said, I said, look, you've never spoken to me. You don't know me. You know nothing about me, but you think it's okay to throw stones and call me names? And he went, oh, okay. And I said, what if I was your sister or your mum and a gang of kids was throwing stones at them? How would that make you feel? And you could see him thinking about it, you know, and I think I'd chosen the right boy, actually, because one of the young lads came up and tried to start calling me names, and he told him to shut up. And then they all left. And I thought, oh my God, phew. I was shaky by the time I went over to the shop, but I knew I had to do something about it, otherwise they'd be tormenting us for a while. So that was my first experience of being recognised for being what I am, not in a good way.
Yeah, so homophobia, basically. I would like to say that has changed, hasn't it? But I have to share with you in return, this Christmas I was in Wales, and some kids had thrown a bottle and broken it deliberately. And I just said, I ran youth theatre, so I talk to young people. And I said, well, that was ridiculous. So you're going to go and get something to clear it up with now? And, you know, the cockiest one started being cheeky back to me and all the rest of it. So I said, well, it could be your dog that gets the glass in its paw. You know, I didn't back down. And I went into the supermarket, and the little buggers followed me around the supermarket, and they ganged up. They stood at the end of each aisle as I was coming down the aisle, and they were saying lesbophobic things to me. And I had, I've got a woolly hat. It happens to be a rainbow woolly hat, which wasn't bought for any other reason than that I like bright colours. And I actually felt intimidated. There were 6 of them, Deb.
Yeah.
They knew it was their town. They knew the streets. And so in the end, I think it's the first time I've ever involved anybody in a management position. And I said, can I speak to the manager? And I explained what had happened. And he walked me off the premises. These kids scarpered, but a car stopped, and this woman said, are they giving you bother? So I said yes, and I told her what had happened, and she said, oh, it's all right. I won't pretend to do a Welsh accent. She said, it's all right, I know one of them. It's her brother here in the back. Come on, we're off to see your mum. So I thought, well, somebody's going to get a bollocking tonight, and quite rightly. But, you know, I mean, that's 2020 that happened in.
Yeah, they say, you know, we're all equal and it's all fine. It's still happening. It's still happening.
Anyway, so that was you. Was your early lesbian life in Bradford then? Was there much of a scene?
No,
you know?
No, it wasn't in Bradford at all. In fact, from 76 to 79, I was out in Nigeria teaching with VSO in a boys' secondary school. And I had inklings of what was happening, how I was feeling. But I didn't actually, it wasn't safe to come out there at all. So it wasn't until I came back to Britain and got culture shock, actually. Not when I went out to Nigeria, I got it when I came back. And I ended up going up to Edinburgh for a month because my friend had offered me a temporary job for a month. And it was actually a month-to-month contract, so I stayed on.
God.
And it was then that I realised, you know, I was in a safe place so that I could actually come out. So that was a whole process. But I didn't know anybody who was gay at all, and hadn't done ever since those 2 girls at school.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And yet the feeling had endured, and that's what I'm finding in these interviews, that early knowledge endures through the most, you know, the desert of knowing no one, you know.
Well, I travelled across the desert with somebody that I was probably quite attracted to, but hadn't realised.
Literally the desert.
Literally,
no
yes, I did.
No doubt in your case. So was Edinburgh the oasis then? Did we finally find something going on in Edinburgh?
It was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it took me a couple of months of trying to ring up Gay Switchboard on the night. I think it was maybe once a month there was a lesbian line. And so eventually I did get through to there, and I plucked up the courage and actually went to the gay centre. But I didn't tell anybody. I was staying with 2 friends, and I was working for one of them, so I didn't tell them. So it all had to be done in secret. And then I got a taxi to the gay centre, and I got out before the centre itself because I didn't want anybody to see me. And then there was a bloke walking up the road, and I thought, oh God, I'll have to sort of wait until he's gone past. Anyway, he turned up the steps and went into the gay centre. I thought, oh, right, okay. So I just went up behind him and went in. But it was a bit of a shock when I went in because there was all these blokes standing around drinking cups of tea, and I'm like, there was no women at all. And my first thought was, oh my God, they'll all think I'm gay or something, you know, or queer or something. It was weird, actually. Then there was a little tea bar, and so I just went up to that and got a cup of tea. And then these 2 lesbians came up from American lesbians came up from downstairs, and that's when I went downstairs and met my first room full of lesbians.
And how did that feel?
I was a bit nervous, you know, because I was like walking into a little group that was sitting in a circle, like in comfy chairs, just in a small room. and everybody, it was one person talking at a time. I just sat there on the settee, just sort of eyes on stalks, looking around, thinking, oh my God, they're all lesbians and they look all right. There's nobody wearing like a twin set and tweeds or something.
looking like Sister George.
Yeah, you know, I didn't know what they looked like. And one of them was a punk with pink hair. She was, yeah, it was, and we all went off to the lesbian disco afterwards. So it was at the the Laughing Duck. They had a disco in the basement of the pub, and then I met two women there, and they happened to be staying where they lived, where I was living. So I walked home with them right at the other side of Edinburgh, and I'm still friends with one of those women. We had a coffee just a couple of days ago. That was 1979. So yeah,
it's amazing how it's secret and hidden until you know, and then suddenly there it all is.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's the other thing that's common in what I'm hearing from you is that very often the gay centres, lesbian and gay centres, it's all male dominated, but there's a space for women somewhere within it, usually downstairs or the smaller room, but there was a bit.
Yes.
And how important have lesbian only spaces been to you through your life?
Oh, fantastically. I mean, just love them. I mean, it's a place where you can just, you know, meet other women just who've got similar interests or things in common. It's a safe space. You can say what you like. You know, you're not going to be judged. Well, you might be, but not for being a lesbian. Yeah. You know, I think vitally important. I think women who've never experienced women-only space don't actually really know what they're missing. And when they do experience it, there's kind of like a dawning realization of like, oh, wow, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been in so many sort of women only and lesbian only spaces, like in the UK and Australia, and they've nearly all gone.
Right.
So they've all gone. They've all gone apart from one.
Right.
Horton Women's Holiday Centre.
How? I mean, obviously it's great, and you feel able to be yourself. But once they've gone, and I've noticed the same, is the deleterious, the impact it has on your mental health to not have those spaces, to almost reset I don't know what happens when you're in them, but I remember, like, when I know you obviously over time, and we both shared, for instance, Women in Tune Festival.
Yeah.
And that 1 week in August, or those few days in August, would almost feed me for a whole year. Yeah. Something literally, I don't know if it's energetic or whatever it is, but something happens that sustains you. And without that, we're not being sustained. And I am witnessing a decline in the mental health in the lesbian community. I don't know if that's anything you've noticed yourself.
I think I've noticed more sort of feelings of isolation and lack of connection, and such a joy when you're actually in a space together, which I have experienced, for the last couple of years, or being involved with Horton Women's Holiday Centre. And we actually have lesbian weeks there. So that has been amazing.
Right. So tell us about Horton Women's Holiday Centre, because that's something that's not come up yet. In 19 interviews.
Sorry?
In 19 interviews, it's not come up.
Wow. Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it was set up in about just over 40 years ago, by a couple of women who went and bought a property. I think one of them had got an inheritance or had sold a house or something like that, and they went to an auction and they got this old vicarage in a Yorkshire village in the Yorkshire National Park, Horton in Ribblesdale, which is an absolutely beautiful area. It's at the beginning of the walk, the Three Peaks walk. So Penny Ghent is behind the house, and it's got a big garden, and it's for all women and children. And and it's the fact that it's been running for over 40 years is pretty amazing. It's a cooperative which women can join. It has a management committee, and it employs 2 workers, and it has things like all the maintenance, all the apart from things like, you know, roof work, we've just had all the roof repaired. So we've had men come in to do, you know, big jobs like that, scaffolding. But most of the work on the house and in the garden has been done by volunteers and women who've been involved with the house. I'm running in a couple of weeks' time. I'm running a gardening week. Well, it's just for 4 days actually, but and that's a really good way for women to be able to come and visit the house and do something while they're there, so that they feel that they're, you know, they can meet new women there and feel involved and part of it without, you know, turning up to the house on their own thinking, oh, you know, what's it going to be like? Will I know anybody? And you know, so yeah, that's a good. So the work weeks and gardening weeks are a really good way to come to the house if you don't know anybody.
And you say that there've been actual lesbian weeks as opposed to just women's
Yes.
weeks.
Yes, in the last 2-3 years, we've had several lesbian weeks because we just felt that there was an absolute need for lesbians to be able to get together in a lesbian only space and just chill out, have a good time. And we've had some good times. We've had lots of serious discussions. We've had dancing. We've had dancing around in the kitchen. You know, we've had the music going. You know, we've had we have a fire in the garden. We've had the fire burning every night and round the fire pit, you know, all the stories. It's been really good to have that. It's like, you know, sort of renewal of energy, lesbian energy. Yeah. And which means that women, you know, from all over the country can come to that. Yeah.
And is that all? Is there a website for anybody that does watch that wonders about, oh, I might like that? Yeah,
there's a website, Horton Women's Holiday Centre. There's Facebook. They're on Facebook as well. So
well, there you go. So there is one space that's holding out. Providing space. Yeah. When you've been there, I'm sure you must have, because I think you've done some of the maintenance and, you know, upkeep of the house, haven't you, in your day? Yeah. When there are women's weeks or it just is open to I remember going there you know, when I was responsible for the kids. Actually, I was co-parenting and we didn't have any money, and it was like single parents were very welcome, and, you know, working class families particularly
definitely
would come, women from refugees, and you know, very, very much women that couldn't afford a holiday could go to Horton. And there was the one down in Hay as well, wasn't there?
Yes.
In the olden days.
Which has gone.
Yeah. Now I remember being there at one point on a lesbian event, and the two overlapped, and we went from being completely out and open as lesbians to being in one of the shared spaces with some women that had just come with their kids, and they hadn't witnessed lesbians en masse, and they're I mean, it is essentially lesbophobia, but it didn't feel the same in that space, because we had a right to be there, and they were, instead of just openly hostile, they were curious. So they were, you know, able to work out why they were feeling odd. Oh, well, are you lesbians then? You know, and a conversation happened. So I just wondered, have you ever had that thing happen to you at Horton?
No, not really, because I don't know, it's not intentional, but I mean, I went there in the 80s, but just briefly after Leslie camp down in Lancashire, we used to go, and any spare food, we'd take it to them. So, and then I didn't go back for a long time because they had 2 cats and I was allergic.
Oh, dear. A lesbian who was allergic to cats?
Absolutely. And they had the cats had the full roaming of the whole house, and I had one room called animal free, and that was where I could go. So that got too much. But anyway, I got back involved just a few years ago. Carly was working there, and she was running a gardening week and got me back in to going. And I can't remember what the question was.
Whether or not you'd ever been there and there'd been like a curiosity or lesbophobia from straight women that were there.
Never any lesbophobia. But No, most of the things that I've been to have been mainly lesbians or bisexual women. But even when there's been straight women there, they're straight women who've been very accustomed to being around lesbians. So it wasn't like an issue or anything. We didn't even think about it, and they knew quite a lot. You know, maybe it was like it was friends or something. So
right,
yeah.
So the random women thing, because it's a bit like when we ran the women's centre here in Corby. There were lesbians involved. Everybody assumed everybody involved in the women's centre were lesbian, and they weren't. But we didn't do anything for lesbians initially, because we were servicing, if you like, providing services for the straight women and the issues around pregnancy and domestic violence and stuff.
Yeah.
But there was this weirdness towards lesbians, whether it's a fear of contamination or lesbian by association, or oh, you're all right, you pass, any of that stuff. If it's women who are not feminists, this is the thing, if they've not done that thinking. So was feminism a thing in your because obviously we talked about Edinburgh, the gay community. At what point did feminism enter your life?
Well, that night at the disco, really, because so simultaneously I kind of came out in Edinburgh into the bar dyke scene, disco scene, and the lesbian feminist scene, because the two women that I walked home with were feminists, and so I got to know all their sort of lesbian feminist contacts, and I used to go dancing, twice a week, whatever, the discos. It was brilliant. So I was quite happy with that community as well. So I was always happy between the two. And sometimes there was kind of a split between them, the women who weren't really political and women who were very political. And there was a bit of suspicion between them. And I kind of floated between them, really, which was an interesting place to be. Yeah. So I kind of defend each group to the other,
Yeah. Was there much activism going on in the political lot? What were they fighting at the time?
Well, there was Greenham Common and the Women's Peace Camp at Faz Lane, and we actually I didn't set it up. There was a Women's Peace Camp just on the other side of the Forth Road Bridge as well, because we had the Rosyth Naval Base, and I think there might have been servicing nuclear submarines there or something like that. So there was a women's peace camp set up on like a roundabout just off the Forth Road Bridge. So which is not a lot of people know about that one. They know more about Faz Lane or Greenham Common. Yeah.
Did you
I was
go down?
Yes, I did. I went down for the Embrace the Base.
Yeah.
There were 11 coaches from Scotland all going down the motorway. And we went in, my memory is that we stopped to go to a service station, and it must have been late at night. I don't know why, but it was totally empty except for a group in the corner of the room. And we were all trooping in, like all these, there must have been, I don't know, a lot of women in the 11 coaches. They're from all over, like Aberdeen, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Dundee. And the group in the corner happened to be Gary Glitter and his band. But we didn't really know about Gary and his glitter at that point. But it was just the fact that he was so famous at that point and he was completely ignored. The women just came in, got their teas, coffees, got the food, went out and got back on the coach, and nobody took any notice of him at all. So that must have been quite an unusual experience for him to be ignored.
Gosh, and so what are your memories from Embrace the Base then?
It's bloody freezing.
The cold.
It was cold, but it was just amazing. It was fantastic. I mean, 30,000 women. Yeah. Just of all ages, all sizes, such a variety. Yeah, posh, working class, you name it, they were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids and all the banners and all the stuff that got decorated the fence, all the just ribbons and whatever. And we stayed for the night in the floor of the Quaker house, because the Quakers were really supportive and provided us with some, place to sleep. So that was pretty amazing. And I did go back after that. I started going down to the, I think maybe Blue Gate or Green Gate, and I used to stay over because I had quite a few friends who were living there. So, but because I was, I never went on any of the actions because my job at the time was as a residential care officer in a social work hostel, working with women coming out of prison.
Oh, right.
So we were kind of connected to the Scottish, the criminal sort of section and the social work department. So I didn't really feel confident in getting arrested.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. So what was it you studied and how did you get into that line of work?
Right. Well, I went to Loughborough College of Education 1972 and did trained to work as a primary school teacher. It wasn't the best college for me, basically, and the first year was pretty miserable. There was a very large campus which had a university, an art college, a tech college, and a college of education, all pretty close to each other. And the ratio of men to women was 10-1, because the College of Education was primarily for the men. It was sports.
Right.
I did sports education to teach in and all creative design. So it was jocks and chippies. And the university was science-based in engineering. So that was mainly men. So yeah. There was a gay society, but all I knew about it were these little notices. Can you hear the weather outside? Yeah, my mum's just come in.
All right.
It's raining cats and dogs out. It is absolutely raining cats and dogs. So, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you gay society.
Yes, it was Peter from, the Gay Society. I used to put up little notices or something. I never met him. I never went to it. And I didn't really have a clue, actually. So, but I knew it was, they were laughed at, basically.
Yeah.
There was all these kind of sneery remarks about, oh, Peter from, Gay Society or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a Jeff from GaySoc. I was in York around the same time, yes. And we had a big PE department. And every time Jeff would put up a thing about the meeting, they would rip it down and put stuff about it. And that's how I actually got involved, because I was supporting him because he was in the music department with me.
Right.
And I just thought that wasn't fair, and it wasn't fair. But I mean, it was horrible because he was a poet and a musician, a very, very genteel Edinburgh chap, actually.
Right.
And him and his boyfriend John had a hell of a time. So I supported them without having any awareness myself of what was going on. Anyway, sorry. So there you go.
Can you hear the rain? It's like,
no, can't hear it.
Right, the windows aren't quite coming in, but it's quite torrential.
Well, because of the way the light is, it looks as if there's a lovely beam of sunlight behind you. So I'm thinking you're sitting in sunny Bradford. So let's maintain that illusion. So there you go. So you're a primary teacher, but how did you end up then in criminal, residential care home work?
Right. Okay. Basically, I did my 3 years at College of Education. I did stick it out and actually enjoyed it in the last year. But I didn't want to go straight into teaching because I thought if I get a job and somewhere to live, I'll be stuck. I'll have to make a commitment. And I actually wanted to travel. So I applied to do VSO, voluntary service overseas. Yeah. So I had to wait 6 months before I got a placement, but I ended up, that was lightning. I ended up going to, thunder. Oh my God, the heavens have opened.
I'll do the soundtrack.
Yeah, so I ended up doing VSO and ended up going to Nigeria and teaching in a secondary school, even though I'd trained at the primary. But I taught English language and literature, so that's what I'd studied at college anyway. So it felt like I could do it. I did that for 3.5 years. I extended my 2-year period there because I just loved it. And so then when I came back, I knew that I didn't want to teach in the British system and that I'd only be able to get a job in a primary school. And I did not want to do that because I'd have to be teaching subjects that I wasn't really interested in or didn't want to, like religion and maths and all sorts of stuff. And I'd have to wear, this was the 70s, so I'd have to wear a skirt. And my teaching practice, before, I'd had to, I was in a primary school, I was in a class with 6-year-olds, and the headmaster told us that we had to wear skirts. Well, it was the era of the mini skirt and heels and tights. So I was teaching 6-year-olds in these tiny little desks wearing a mini skirt. No, I was not happy. So I didn't want to. And my friend offered me a job. I went up to visit friends, and one of them was, she was head officer in charge at a children's home, right. Reception into care. And I said, look, if you've got any temporary jobs coming up, Jane, how about it? So she gave me a ring a month later, and I went up to Edinburgh for a month to do it, not knowing that it was a month-to-month contract if I wanted to.
Oh, that's what it was, because you mentioned the month-to-month contract. I thought that was still in teaching. So there you were, residential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was staying at my friend's, Jane's, and with her husband. Yeah, yeah. And that's when I realised, that actually, I knew I was gay really about 2 years previously, because I was attracted to one of the other volunteers and visited them in a break. And then I went back to Nigeria and I had a boyfriend. And when I said goodbye to the female one, I thought, oh, I was quite upset. And then when I said goodbye to Julian, it was a lovely guy. When I said goodbye to him on the train, I wasn't that bothered. Yeah. And I thought, and I got home and I thought, whoa, that's really weird. I must be queer or something, meaning funny, peculiar. Yeah. But then I wrote the word queer, I crossed it out. Couldn't look. I wasn't in a place to take that on. Yeah. Because I was going back to Nigeria. Yeah. And that was absolutely not a place where you not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to take you to how did you get involved in, completely missing from the conversation so far, is your art. When on earth did that happen to you? And can you tell me when you're doing that as well? Can you include some commentary about why it's important? Because a world without art,
Yeah. Well, my mum's always been like a very observant person and would take us on walks, we didn't have a car or anything. So, well, we did for a time, but then parents split up. But so she was always very observant and would point things out and just have an appreciation of beauty, really. So that was just part of my life. And I really loved it at school, but it was very much like there's going to be 2 kids in the class who are really good at art, and they're fantastic, talented artists, and they were. And then the rest of us, we didn't really get a look in. So it wasn't kind of fostered. But my mum bought me a packet of oil pastels, and I used to sort of mess around with those. And so it was right from a kid I was interested. But it was when I was at college, I should really have gone and done, I would love to have done art at the college for the teaching, but you could only do one main subject. So I had to choose between doing English and art. And I chose English because I thought, when I leave here, I'm going to have to get a job. And how am I going to get a job if I do art? Yeah. So I did the English. And I ended up doing English and drama, actually. The second year, you had to choose between English and drama. And I ended up doing drama. Unbelievable, but I did, because it was more creative than the English one, but I'd never have dreamt that I'd do that. But anyway. So, yeah, so it's, but I still did my own art, like I know one time, one of my first really colourful pastel drawings was done after I had imbibed something of a hallucinogenic nature. Actually, I'd half a tab of LSD, but and then what I drew after that, it was amazing. And I think that gave me my appreciation of like amazing colours, you know, that are there in nature. It's just that, yeah, I've moved on a bit from there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But, you know, my style does change a lot, you know, but that's, but those are a series of, they're oil pastel on A6, A5 paper. And I've done about 900 of them. And at one point, they were all up in my kitchen living room, all on the walls, from ceiling to the floor. Every single surface was covered. Yeah. So.
But you wouldn't need LSD, see? You could just
I know.
down there and it's all there.
Oh yeah, that was a one and only time. And yeah. So that was it. But yeah, so, and also my uncle gave me a box camera when I was 11. A Kodak box camera, and I've still got those photographs in an album. And so, I mean, I always have a camera with me, and of course now it's on your phone. I've got about 60,000 photographs on my computer. That's my digital lot, and I've got years of film, packets of film, you know, from years before that. So I've got a huge collection.
And have you had shows? Do you have a studio? What's that been like? Because obviously this has been something that's been ongoing throughout your life, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got a studio in Edinburgh. And so it's funny because I'm not actually doing an awful lot of artwork at the moment. I've got trigger thumb, and which is a bit painful. So I used to do very intricate black ink designs. There's a slight fraction of one, a little on the inside of a little bowl there. Yeah, but so I used to do a lot of that kind of work, and it was really close work. And of course, it's very fine finger movements like that.
Oh,
so
God.
I think it's kind of coarse. And I'm really into gardening, and I've bought a new flat, and sort of working on that a lot and sorting out a lot of stuff. So yeah, but once I got chronic fatigue syndrome, that's right, I got chronic fatigue syndrome when I was working at the hostel. There was an epidemic of it from Glasgow through to Edinburgh in the early 90s. I knew about 40 women who had chronic fatigue syndrome, ME.
Wow.
And two men, and they had it really badly, the men, but I mean really badly. But there's 40 women. We were all in social work, teaching, nursing, community work, all working in stressful face-to-face contact jobs with people, in jobs that weren't often well supported at all by management. In fact, it was shocking, really. And I knew what I'd got when I got it, because, you know, one of my friends had got it, and I thought, oh no. Yeah. I think we all went off camping one weekend, and 2 of us came away after that with chronic fatigue syndrome, which was a bit interesting. So, I mean, I was 36 and I'm 67 now. So I've had it for 31 years, and it's still around. It's still around, but not so much as it was, but
it's interesting, Dad, because so many people, you know, that's mass burnout, basically.
Totally.
You know, and a lot of people don't understand ME and the idea that it came from somewhere to somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. You have, I believe, your own personal art symbol.
Yes. Yeah, I've just, when we were talking before we started the session, you were saying, you know, do you have any of your artwork around? I said, well, no, because I'm at my mum's. But then I just realized she'd just cleared something off the sideboard, and I said, oh, this is my own. It's a bit of wood burning on wood, and it's my own personal symbol, which I've got tattooed on my back, but I have it on my left shoulder at the back, because so that I don't have to look at it, because I sometimes being really observant is a bit of a burden, because you just can get overloaded. And yeah, so I don't want to look at it all the time. So it's, but I know it's there, you know, and it's, yeah. And it was done by a lesbian in New Zealand, who had a caravan out in the sticks somewhere, and it was really lovely. I did the design, and it was in red and yellow, and so she traced that design onto my back, and she'd got Enya playing and nice smelling things in the. So it was really relaxing, you know. I didn't find it painful at all. So it was actually a beautiful experience. So yeah.
So how would you say representation of lesbians in the arts, so either as artists and writers, etc., is one side of it, but also then representation of lesbians through the arts, books, films, music, you know, anything?
Well, I mean, I personally have I've been to a lot of lesbian camps and festivals and gatherings, and over the years I've done like a photographic record of them. I've done lots of videoing, not hugely brilliant standard or anything, just handheld, and I didn't know anything about it, but I knew that I wanted to record, you know, the moments. And you know, because I remember when I was, you know, first coming out, you know, we used to go and see lesbian films, and they were terrible. You know, all the lesbians died. There was not one lesbian film that I went to see that had a lesbian in it where if there was a couple, one of them died, you know, and it was depressing until and then in the 90s, I think, possibly, there was a whole spate of films started to come out, and they were like really positive and funny. And there was two young women in the circus, and they lived in a circus or something. They had a little dog, and it was kind of part fantasy, and that was just lovely. You know, the caravan, you know, lying in the caravan, and the dark blue ceiling with little stars on it and stuff. You know, it was really positive. I love that. And then Desert Hearts. I mean, it was a bit classic theme in that, you know, older woman seduced by a younger woman, or younger woman seduced by older woman. You know, so it was a bit that, but I thought it was a brilliant film. You know, the characters in it, you know, I enjoyed that. The music was brilliant. And
the rain running down the window and the kiss.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I just remember the cowboy. You know, the cowboy night in the dance,
in the casino
whatever
place.
And I think the lesbians. I think it was her aunt that she used to live with, and I can just remember her saying, you know, when she was confronted by something, she said, "I'm handling it," and that's the only line I remember out the whole film.
Yeah. But again, I mean, I remember in that film, you know, it was like hooray, hooray, and they have that one night, and then they go out for a meal, and they have a row straight away. They're getting hassled by the blokes.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just anyway. So there's not a lot, but you have been instrumental in recording footage. So have you done anything with it? Because that would be true representation, wouldn't it?
I know.
Is there a project here, Deb?
It's a huge project. And I've asked for help over many years, and I've never got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you've got the images. You've got the images. I'm getting the words. Maybe we need to talk.
Well, I've got all this footage which needs digitizing and then editing. And I have gone on so many video did courses learning how to do videos, and it's just too much information in a very short space of time. And I can't learn like that. I have to learn by doing, and then you do a weekend, you learn all this stuff on the computer, have a go with the camera, and you go home and you have a shot and you get stuck and you think, oh right, well that's it then, isn't it? I can't, what button do I press now? And I just give up, because I'm not good at looking at videos and then trying to, on YouTube. It's just, it's a bit overload, really.
Well, I think this is where we need intergenerational stuff going on. This is where the younger lesbians need to step up, and we might have recorded our story as we go, but perhaps it's for them to make it relevant for the now. Let's talk anyway, because there's obviously Feminist Archive North are interested in having the transcripts of these interviews, and there's
right. It'd be fantastic if somebody was tech savvy, just wanted to get the tapes, digitize them, and then if anybody was interested in editing, I mean, I'd actually like to be part of the process, because I know I did it with a young guy I've known for years, and he was doing a video course at college, and we filmed something together, and then we sat down and edited it together, and he did all the stuff on the computer, but I instinctively knew, yeah, all right, oh yeah, stop there, oh yeah, put that in, and I really enjoyed that, but I can't do it myself on the computer, it's not on my own.
Yeah.
Also, part of that, like if it was some younger lesbians who were involved in something like that, would be brilliant, because they would actually get to see what our lives have been like, what battles we've fought, what are the issues. I was watching something the other night. Oh God, I can't remember what it was. I've got a bit of short-term memory loss sometimes. There were two young women who were boxers, Olympic champ. Oh, Dame Kelly Holmes.
Oh yeah, being herself.
That's right, fantastic. I really enjoyed that, actually. But she interviewed two young Olympian boxers who are partners and young lesbians, and she told them about not being able to be herself when she was in the army, and people got chucked out, court-martialed, and discharged in disgrace. They hadn't got a clue. They knew nothing about Section 28, about discrimination, about people losing their jobs, nothing. It's like they'd suddenly woken up in a world where everything was handed to them on a plate, and like they thought that was just normal. And I thought, oh my God. And that's partly because I think of this, the younger generation of lesbians have been completely, or not completely, possibly in some areas, but really separated from us older lesbians who were young like them.
Yeah.
But our lives have been really different, and they don't have that contact with us in their daily lives. The bookshops aren't there, the dances aren't there, the festivals aren't there, the camps aren't there. They've all gone. Yeah,
it's true. There is one of the interviews is with a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
And she came to one of the online Zoom women-only, lesbian-only spaces that have sprung up because of COVID, which is great. And she said that for her, it was incredible because she was looking at a screen, and the age range that day was up to 78. And she said, I can see my life mapped out in front of me here on this screen. I had no idea what I might be like when I was 40 or 50 or 60.
Yeah.
What might my life have been like? Might I have children? What happens as you grow older as a lesbian? And she loved being in that setting for that reason.
Yeah.
So I do think there's repair needs to be done, repairing the lesbian community to be able to give these young girls who might be considering, am I same-sex attracted? Where is there for them to go? I mean, would you like to comment on the nowadays situation?
Sorry, it just went into a bit of a blip there. On the what situation?
All right, on the situation nowadays for, let's say, a young Deb coming out now or wondering about herself now.
Well, I think if I was coming out now, I would probably be trans, because I was a tomboy. I've never been into frilly feminine clothes, always been totally comfortable, shorts, jeans and a shirt or t-shirt or whatever, shortish. Mind you, I did have long hair, but that was just before I came out. It was down my waist actually. But anyway, I cut it all off when I came out, and I just got distracted by my long hair.
Yeah, tomboy. You were a tomboy. What would the young girls, if you were
if I was coming out now, I would, the only options I would be given, I reckon, would be, you know, oh, you're not feminine, you know, you must be a boy, you know. And I know, I remember I used to sort of stand in front of the mirror and I'd try and I'd slick it back, you know, like that, stand there like this and think, yeah, that. But you know, that was just as like a 10-year-old or something, you know. And I used to be so angry. I had two brothers younger than me, and they got to do all the cool things that, you know, like we had a coal fire and they'd go out to the coal place and bring in the coal and make the fire up, and I'd be doing the bloody washing up. And it just stuff like, you know, I wasn't a feminist at 10, but I was so outraged by the
division of labour,
you know, and the clothes that, you know, that I was supposed to wear and feel comfortable with. You know, we had to wear stockings with suspender belts. Oh, God. It's shocking. I can't believe it. But that's, and then tights came in. So it was marginal improvement. But, you know, yeah. So, yeah, if that was me, I'd have thought, right, well, obviously I must be a boy, you know. No.
Well, yeah. Somebody pointed out about, you know, how we lost all of that. We got rid of the gender you know, the gender roles and the sex stereotyping in the 70s. It got to a place of, you know, unisex. There was gender bending. There was all sorts. But there was a notion, that you could be however you wanted to be, and that was fine. And anyway, we worked out that there had been, prior to this rise of gender ideology, there had been capitalism had discovered the double market in colour coding products. And I remember taking my youth theatre group around a supermarket. It was Asda actually, because there was the George clothing thing there as well. And I made the girls go and buy a boy's outfit and the other way around, so they would experience the opposite. And there was pink cheese, pink Baby Bell cheese to go in the pink lunchbox, you know, and it's double money. And it was, you know, the hyper feminization and the hyper masculinization and this split down the middle. And we did a project called Pink Stinks, and that was 2006.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, prior to this change, but there had been this, let's make that division even wider and even clearer. And then there are only those two boxes, and God help anybody that's in between them, because you're going to get shoved into one box or the other.
Yeah. I mean, that's what was so great about feminism when I first came out, was this notion that you could be absolutely anything you wanted. You could be as butch, well, total butch was a little bit off, I think, seen as being, you know, too manly or something, but you could be like really masculine or really feminine and everything in between. And like, it was a whole spectrum, but you were still a woman.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And now it's completely the opposite, completely the opposite. It's gender stereotypes, you one or the other. It's shocking. It really is. Lesbian erasure all over the place. Totally.
Well, here we are. We have proudly taken that back today, and it's been wonderful to listen to your story. And I look forward to moving forward on maybe some archiving project with you, Deb. That would be
fantastic.
That would be great, because there's been a lot of interest in this, and it only popped up a couple of weeks ago as an idea for me, because I'm proud to be a lesbian, and I'm not proud of pride. And I thought,
get stuffed. Well, touch it with a barge pole.
Was it always like that?
No, definitely not. We used to go on Pride. I used to be in Edinburgh Women Drummers.
Oh,
We were
did
either
you?
called, yeah, it was either Shaboom or Shebang. One was in
Shebang.
Glasgow and one was
Yeah.
in Edinburgh, and I
All
was in
right.
the Edinburgh one. There's 40 women drummers. It was fantastic. We led the march in Edinburgh. We walked, played all the way up the mound. God, my thighs afterwards with the drum, painful, but anyway, it was brilliant, you know. So we're really proud to be part of that. You know, it's fantastic. And to walk on the streets of Edinburgh in a Pride March, knowing that there's people, you know, I might have clients seeing me go past or anything, you know, what the heck? It was brilliant.
Yeah.
But now, nah, we're not welcome. Gender critical feminists are not welcome, lesbians are not welcome at Pride. And they are pushing the trans, you know, it's trans Pride, really, with their followers and supporters, allies. So I'm totally with I mean, it feels really weird, the LGB alliance, it feels really weird to going back into being an alliance with gay men. You know what I mean? It's like come full circle, hasn't it? You know, because like we used to work with gay men a lot and then realised actually their agenda was quite different from ours in many ways. And, you know, we sort of spread out. Is the time running on?
What now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, no, we're coming to the end, but this is fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're back to working with gay men.
Oh, sorry, I just
who are under a similar.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, as long as the lesbians still get to have a good voice in that.
Yeah.
I noticed that the lesbian gay conference this year is on the day before Philia starts in Cardiff.
Yes.
And I'm like, is that deliberate or?
No, it was the QE2 centre. That was the day that was offered. They asked for one earlier in the week, and that was the only day available. So that is a bit of a clash for those who want to go to both.
I would have loved to have gone to the LGB Alliance one, but the thought of trying to find somewhere to stay in London that night and then get to Cardiff the next day for a conference are going to be exhausted.
Well, there you go. And here we are saying we've got nothing to do, and yet some of us have got a very busy week. So Deb, it's been great to speak to you, another proud lesbian, and thank you for your activism and contribution over the years.
Cheers. I'm happy to have done this. I mean, you kind of sprung it on me yesterday, which is the best thing to do, because I think you might have mentioned it to me before, and I thought, you know, but actually I've enjoyed it, and the time's passed really quickly.
Good.
There's so many other things I could say.
Exactly, and you know, I think we need to do round 2. So I'll connect you up with the other proud lesbians, and welcome to the team. All right.
Yeah. Never even mentioned the women's circus. There you go. And Pow performing older women's circus. Well,
you know, I think that we could finish with that. So tell us a bit about that, because nobody else has mentioned that.
Okay, in Melbourne, Australia, it's probably a long time ago, Donna Jackson started the women's circus for women who'd been survivors of sexual abuse, rape, incest, etc. And it was a way of getting an activity that would instill sort of confidence and an enjoyment, really, of the bodies. And it's through circus. And that has continued for many years. When I did go to Australia, I used to go back in time for the end of year show, which was just fantastic. And one of the women there, Jean Taylor, started off an older women's circus called POW, Performing Older Women, which I was in the music group for that at one point as well, which was brilliant. However, things have changed, and transgender people are now part of the women's circus, and I have noticed a bit of a change in emphasis. Yeah, that's a big topic.
It is, and it's a shame that I mean, you know, it's the same debate going on about sports, about every area. Is it right? Does it work? Should there be a separate category? But again, this was something that was started for women to feel empowered in their bodies. It's a sexed thing.
Yeah.
about embodiment as a woman in you know, as a female in a woman's body. So I think, as you say, it's a bigger debate. But yes, thank you for that. Is there you know, I'm sure there's archive footage. So Performing Older Women, that was called, yeah? Would there be stuff online about that?
Well, possibly.
Yeah.
I've got video footage of them performing. Yeah. Did one called The Maiden Ant. It was brilliant.
There needs to be a short video of the Performing Older Women. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Great. That could be your first one, Deb, because that's imagery we don't see. Yeah.
Oh, they're fantastic as well. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Again. Okay.
Lovely. Okay then.
Bye.
Bye.